Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Bank audit. So March महीना आता है, we always think that who has been allotted the bank audit, all these stuffs, and a national conference on bank audit, one of the most successful conferences of Ahmedabad. We always knows that, and hope first day must be productive and insightful for everyone. Today we have a faculty with us, which is going to take a session on audit planning, most important in audit that we know. And we have with us a faculty, Niranjan Joshi sir and Lokesh Gupta sir for second session. I request Sunit Shah sir with Niket Asani and Ruchir Pandya sir to please escort our first faculty, Niranjan Joshi sir. Requesting everyone raise for ICAI motto.
य एष सुप्तेषु जाग्रति य एष सुप्तेषु जाग्रति कामं 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 कामंशो पुरुषो निर्विमाणः निर्विमाणः तदेव शुक्रं तद्ब्रह्मा तद्ब्रह्मा तदेवामृतमुच्यते तस्मिन् लोकः शतः सर्वे तदूनात्यपि कश्चन एतद्वैता
Now I request Ruchir Pandya, coordinator for the session, to please introduce the faculty.
Very good morning to all professional colleagues and members in the industry. Thank you, Chairman Sir, Sri Nirav Agrawal Sir, to give me this opportunity, as well as the members of the Committee of Ahmedabad, WIRC, ICAI. I hear a very warm welcome to CA Niranjan Sir. He is a BCom FCA Fellow Chartered Accountant of Institute. He is qualified fellow member, diploma in ISA, as well as IFRS course conducted by ICAI. He is practicing chartered accountant since 1997, currently working in audit and assurance. He is having experience in dealing with statutory audit of banks, public sector undertaking, and private sector companies. He is also empaneled as a peer reviewer for peer review board of ICAI, FRRB of ICAI. He is also empaneled as a technical reviewer for financial reporting review board of ICAI, and as well as a reviewer for quality review board. He is conducting seminar across the countries and various chapters of ICAI. He is speaker in training programs and seminar organized by ICAI at all various branches of ICAI across the countries, as well as the study circles at Mumbai. He has been a trainer for DIRM course, as well as certified course on concurrent audit. He is contributing back to the profession by way of bank audit guidance notes since 2013, dealt with subject to such as code of ethics, bank audit, peer review. The list is going on so far. So with this brief introduction, I would like to thank you, C. Niranjan sir, to give his precious time to the Ahmedabad chapter branch. So very welcome you too for the session for conducting audit planning. Thank you, sir. Request Sri Sunit Shah and Samir Chaudhary sir to welcome with Niranjan sir to felicitate him with memento and a bouquet.
Good morning, friends. Good morning. I request you all to come ahead, please. A lot of empty spaces, Please, you can come ahead. Sorry for the initial hiccup. When we go for bank audit, they promise us that they'll provide you with data and all everything. But by the end, when we sign off, till that, don't give us. So something like that happened. My pen drive didn't work on the machine. So anyways, I carried the backup, so I could use my laptop. So sorry for that. Thank you to Managing Committee of Ahmedabad for giving me this opportunity, and all the office bearers who have taken a lot of efforts. And I must congratulate you for this wonderful premises of ICAI and this wonderful auditorium. And thanks to you all as members also. I think must be one of the best and finest venues where we got an opportunity to speak. Also, good to see the next session speaker already in the auditorium, Lokesh ji, good friend of mine. Morning to you all. Friends, audit planning, nothing new much this year for the bank branch audit, except one continuing fact, that the audit is reducing in numbers and less number of firms are getting opportunity. And you would be aware that RBI has permitted banks to, have an autonomy, and they can appoint their own set of auditors, and some of the banks have already reduced the percentage of coverage of advances so that, the less number of branches are covered under bank branch audit. So our job is really, more tough, at least for those who are continuing auditors, those who have not completed 4 years in their existing bank branch audit assignment. I'm sure they would be considered for appointment this year. But overall, the number of branches under audit is reduced considerably in last 5-10 years. And now the responsibility is on all of us who get this opportunity to establish our importance there, that why we require this bank branch audit assignment. And for that, I think planning is very important, because within 4 to 10 days time, we get this assignment to be completed. Like normally, we get an appointment letter somewhere in the month of March. That is fag end of March usually. At least last 3 years, I could see it was like 28th March or 30th March or even 1st April. Some of the banks issued last year the appointment letter. But tentatively, the deadline remained the same. Like, how was it? Was it 30th April? 15th April. Oh, good. Any lesser amount, lesser dates? Some of the banks did it in 12th, I was told last time. Some banks said, 12th April, we want you to sign this off. And then, if you look at actual number of working days available, because it takes time for you to plan the team, make a travel arrangement. The branches are also, allotted in such a fashion that, all are not near to your office premises. So you have to travel between A and B cities to match those 2 branches. All said and done, what we get is maybe 4 or 5 effective days for the team at the branch, and where we have to do everything. So practically, what we should do is, we should take a benefit of whatever this time which we have from, say, attending a program yesterday and today, refreshing ourselves with what's new approach, and maybe planning for, how effectively we can do this assignment in that allotted time. So I'm just going to share some of my views and my experiences, that how I try to, plan this audit efficiently, so that within that 4, 5, 6 days which are available for a particular branch, how my team effectively covers all the basic required things. READ, read. I think this is most important word which I learned during my, study as a chartered accountant and then subsequent practice areas also. But today, sadly, we are missing out on this reading skills, Earlier, we used to read a lot. But today, what I observe is, most of the auditors, they do reading on need-to-know basis. Welcome, Hitesh Bhai. So, reading on need-to-know basis means what? Is that whenever someone wants you to answer something, you use a fantastic gadget which you all have. type in keywords, maybe 1 or 2 phrases if you want, or maybe 1 or 2 sections, or maybe 1 or 2 dates of circulars, and then try to find out any search engine which you use. It doesn't give you only one result, It gives you multiple results. And it runs into few hundreds of results. But you as an individual believe that the first one is going to be correct because the computer is fantastic, It is right always. And we believe that whatever is written in that first page is like final. That reading is not sufficient for doing this bank audit assignment, friends. Like when me and Lokesh were sitting here having a cup of tea, he says that, boss, I'm looking at some circulars because I need to check whether there is a reference to any of the LFR points, which may have to share, So we quickly discussed and exchanged a couple of circulars, and we thought that why can't we, give some input on a couple of those circulars with respect to some LFR requirements. That's possible only if he has already read the circulars, and now he is just trying to bring whatever he has read into, a point which he may give you so that you can, use it when you go for an audit. It can't happen, you go and start the work and then use this mobile or use this computer and search, is there any keyword, say for loans and advances, for IRAC, and then you start searching, then it's not possible. So reading is like, you have to develop a fantastic skill for reading, and I can at least give you a link for auditing, is that go through the link of AASB of ICAI. All the material, including the guidance note, is available, freely downloadable version. And ensure that, you can continuously do this throughout the year for whatever assignments you carry out, Because what is expected out of us is that we should have all the professional skills, all the technical and professional standards needs to be complied with when you do any statutory audit assignment. And that comprises everything which you can get it on link of AASB of ICAI. How does it look like? Like it starts with SQC, then all the standards on auditing. Again, this is standards on auditing in a bank branch audit, I'm quite sure some of you are empaneled as peer reviewers, and some of you must be practice unit, which has already undergone a process of peer review. I think those will understand what I'm trying to say when I'm showing you a slide on SQC1, Standard on Quality Control, which establishes your firm's policy about how a quality should be maintained during any audit assignment which you carry out. And the peer review process picks up all the audit assignments which you give to them. Out of that, randomly they can pick any number of assignments, and they verify your working papers. And the first thing they check is that whether you are complying with standards which are professional standards, that is applicable to all of us, standards on auditing. So no matter whether it's a small branch or a big branch, whether you are a statutory branch auditor or statutory central auditor, compliance with all these standards is mandatory. And below this, you will find a couple of publications once you scroll down the AASB website, and you will find standardized checklist also, which are either in Excel or Word, which you can use actually during your audit assignments on your machines. Also, for this specific assignment, you will find that, the first thing you will find is text of guidance note on audit of banks 2025 edition. Again, that is also freely downloadable version, roughly around 700 plus pages. All pages are very nicely drafted because a lot of us have contributed in it. Like all of us who do bank audit, some of us get a chance to contribute in writing them. The challenge is reading 700 pages in next 10 days is not possible, even practically I understand that. But I would request you, like if you have observed this in last 5 years, there has been an effort from AASB to write an audit guidance under every topic which is there in the guidance note on bank audit. So even if you pick up those audit guidance paragraphs, under each type of, paragraph which is discussed, like there could be advances, there could be treasury, there could be deposits, there could be housekeeping, all different account heads where elaborative checklist and all are provided. If you can sum up all those and bring it to one place, I'm sure it would be somewhere around 20 pages of A4 size, a very crisp audit procedure or audit requirements. And that also can help you substantially to do this particular audit assignment. Apart from reading, I think our basic fundamental principles of code of ethics, independence, are also equally important. Integrity, objectivity, professional competence and due care. Confidentiality, professional behavior. Total 5 independent standards, and they are, I call them pillars of the code of ethics independent standard. I would like to just share, some of my concerns when it comes to code of ethics. Reason, again, I'm linking this to our current requirement of peer review. Now look at this peer review. Peer review asks you to give compliance with code of ethics, compliance with standard on documentation, etc., with respect to statutory audits and any other audit assurance engagement. And then the peer reviewer will pick up any random accounts and then you will have to give them the working papers. But principally, a firm as a whole or a practice unit as a whole, you'll have to establish that there is a compliance with SQC1 and compliance with code of ethics. You all know that there is one more, other than guidance note, there is one more helpline from AASB of ICAI called Bank Audit FAQ. Are you aware? The email ID called bankauditfaq@icai.in, and a lot of bank audit experts, they give you replies to your questions within 24 hours of you posting it. I think me and Lokesh are part of that group for almost 10 years now. In the audience, anybody aware of this email ID? You are aware. Good. Have you tried it anytime? Did you get a reply? Wow. Why I'm bringing this slide only because of that. Reason is, I got one interesting question in 2023. And the question says, it was a very crisp question, how to do bank audit. The more interesting was the way I answered it, First, I sent him a copy of Code of Ethics 2019, highlighting this particular third item, professional competence and due care. Attain and maintain professional knowledge and skill, act diligently and in accordance with the applicable technical and professional standards, ensure appropriate training and supervision to subordinates. I said, before accepting the assignment, you should be prepared for doing it, not after accepting, asking somebody else on an email that how to do a bank branch audit. Now that's a challenge, Doing bank audit was never easy, I can tell you. It was always a complex business to do audit. And even today, it's much more complex because the nature of, the transactions which are going, like last 2 years, there have been a tremendous focus on digital banking transaction. On a liability side, you can have UPIs and other modes of payments which are moving quite fast, much ahead of the world. Whereas on the asset side, that is on advances side, we already have almost large size banks doing lending on digital platforms. And especially as a branch auditor, I can tell you, very limited information is available, or rather made available to the branch auditors. And as a branch auditor, from study point of view, are having enough knowledge about how to test it. We also have got very limited, material. And that's where I'm coming to. So as a branch auditor, you must be geared up to do this entire assignment by maintaining professional knowledge, skill. Now that skill includes both, You should have a technical knowledge and you should take a technological help also. I was told that we already have a session yesterday on CBS and all. So all the tricks which they have told you, we must make sure that we get a chance to communicate with the branch in advance, get the information, and then probably do the testing based on whatever has been discussed. Like you can generate some reports in-house, you can get some reports from the existing report folder, get it on your emails convert that into an Excel sheet, try to have a meaningful analysis, and then come with your conclusions about what selection of sample, what testing, all that can be done through the technology, But for that, you need to prepare. And that you cannot do preparation on 3rd of April when you go to the branch, So you have to do it at the back end, and this is the right time to do it. So after this 2 days program, what I would request you is that you go back, make a team first, and tell that team that this is all what we learned in last couple of days, that these are the new techniques, these are the new ways of doing things, and can we identify that who can do which work. And be ready, that okay, on 10th of March or 15th of March, you are aware that these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 members would be my team members, which are going to do audit of A branch and B branch, whatever it comes. Because today you don't know really which branches you are going to get. So these fundamental principles are key, Like again, integrity and objectivity. By and large, I believe that code of ethics we all follow substantially well. Where we fail is that we do not document it enough. Same is with standards on auditing, I believe most of us follow it to the extent of 70 to 80%, except SA 230. That we realize when we get a chance to do a peer review for somebody, or somebody else is going to do a peer review of our firm. So what I request you is that, instead of doing it subsequent to the audit, it's good to do it prior to audit, And use this next 10 days time to probably do it. For integrity and objectivity also, like my personal viewpoint, like we have got so many WhatsApp groups, And now last 2 years I've observed that, we get added, like I think Lokesh also would agree with me, that even if I'm not an auditor of a particular, say, XYZ bank, I get, added into that group, saying that auditors of so-and-so bank. And some of you who are auditors of X bank or Y bank, you might be having a part of a group also, which says that auditors of so-and-so bank, and the kind of exchange of information which is happening on those groups, I think we need to look at the requirements of code of ethics also before doing it. Because having a technical question which is asked and resolved is a different thing. Having a specific information which you share, which either as a professional or as a statutory auditor you are not supposed to share with an outsider, there's a thin line between it. So ensure that you maintain confidentiality. At the same time, whenever you need a technical support, you can very well take a benefit of those groups and pose a question without identifying name of the customer, without identifying name of the branch. So develop a hypothetical query which resolves your problem, I normally divide this entire process into, 4 sections. The first one, audit program. I think if you go through the guidance note 2025, I'm sure most of you would have seen the book, at least the cover page. If you have not seen, the next slide I'll show you that. Try and click on appendices. Has anybody tried it? Downloaded the guidance note and checked on what is there in the appendices? The first one is, I think, the bank branch audit program, And this is recently modified this year. So it's an excellent program. Start with that as a basic model. And based on the branch which you get a chance to do audit, the complexities involved in that branch, you may probably modify that to the extent. Rest all, I think, if it is not applicable, you can start with saying that it's not applicable. But the audit program has to be there in the place. 2 aspects in it. One, when there is an audit program, your team is clearly aware that these are the minimum things which I have to do. Number 1. Number 2, you ensure that when all the points in the audit program are ticked, that means nothing important is missed out. Then you may add anything what you want to do that. So there has to be an audit program, and that audit program has to be linked with audit report, primarily the long form audit report also. Reason being that when you do something as an auditor, ultimately it would be reflected in your statutory audit report under SA 700 or maybe in long form audit report. And I have observed that many a times when the long form audit report we start preparing, we really don't have a track of which item, which observation we need to copy paste in which particular question under LFAR. And that can be eased out only when your audit program, say under audit program, fourth item is say advances. And in advances, if you make sure that all the questions which are mentioned in LFAR are addressed, then you can straight away map it with that LFAR, that any negative observation in this 4 number or maybe subclause A, B, C, D, E, F, it would be maybe I think question number 5 in LFAR talks on advances, and under 5, we have got around 20 questions or 25 questions. So we can map say 5.1, 5.2, 5.3. So this linkage between your audit program and what is expected out of you as an audit report, that linkage can be done at the time of planning stage. And same thing, you can ensure that your executing team maintains that structure for the whole period, maybe 4 days, 5 days, or 6 days. So ensure that you have one team member who takes that responsibility at the end of the day on a daily basis, that whatever was expected out of the team is being tested, is being completed, observations are being drafted, and wherever the observation is concluded that it should go to the long form audit report, or it should be dropped, or it should get converted into a memorandum of a change, all that needs to be marked, mapped, and kept ready in the working paper file. So that on the last day, when somebody starts punching that long form audit report into the computer system, because most of the banks have ensured that their LFAR is now computerized. You don't have to issue a manual report. So you have to punch it in some software. So the answers are ready, Your observations are also ready. One important factor, even after having so much software or sophisticated tools which being used by the banks, even today we observe that there are some sets of auditors who believe that I will give only one annexure. And everywhere I would say that refer annexure A. And then I'll go on writing all the things which I want to write in only one annexure. I think we need to understand that if there is an appropriate question asked under LFAR, then you only have to appropriately carve out the observations which are pertaining to that particular point and give a reference there. If you say that I've got a 20-page annexure A, and in all the questions I answer it like annexure A, annexure A, annexure A, I'm not sure whether your report is effective. Is it readable or not is a different thing, because as a central auditor, somebody will have to read it. But disseminating those and identifying against a particular question becomes a bit difficult, and the effectiveness of reporting goes down to substantial extent. So please avoid writing such reports, and that you can avoid by making a proper audit plan and giving a clear instruction to your team that if you find an observation, like there is one question on insurance. Now, if there is a question on insurance and you identify certain cases of deficiencies of insurance, you can't just say that refer annexure A. You should say that we have verified 10 accounts, out of which in 5 cases we observed that the stock was under insurance, and these are the details. And you can say that account number, name of the borrower. You can say that what is the stock amount as per the stock statement, and sum insured as per insurance policy. And that could be an annexure which you can add under that particular appropriate question against LFAR. Rather than saying that refer A there, refer annexure A. And in annexure A, you just go on giving a big observation list. So you find out, you tell the reader that you check whatever you want. I have done everything, and then I have put in only annexure 1. Effective reporting, we'll discuss maybe few slides, but I think the next topic which we'll have. And all in all, more adherence to planning on documentation. Because even if the peer review is deferred, for March 26, I think most of us will have to undergo peer review process. And March 25 would be a classic example for you to get documentation. The challenge here is whenever you go to the branch, from day one to day end, like they'll do everything for you. But the day you sign the accounts of the branch and you move out of that branch, then you are a stranger for them and you will not get any paper from them. So make sure that whatever list of documentation you do, attach it with the audit program and ensure that your team collects all the requisite documents from the branch before you actually conclude the audit. Because after conclusion of audit, I'm not sure whether you will get even answer to your phone call regarding getting some papers or additional documents or working papers. And obviously, as per our SA 230 also or SQC 1, it is expected that the compilation of working paper file should be done concurrently during the process of the audit. No doubt you can compile it subsequently up to 60 days, but the paper has to come before you sign the financial statements. Rearranging those papers with a logical sequence, that can be continued up to the up to the 60 days time which is given. So overall, this would be the periphery within which you have to plan the things. This is how this new cover looks like. No doubt, last year it was 24, now it's 25. So not much change in the cover. But inside, as I said, there are a lot of amended things. There has been an improvement in the audit program. Then there has been an improvement in some of the guidance which is being given. And some fine-tuning of audit procedures or what to do during the audit has been added in every type of topic which is covered. So probably you can take benefit of that. As an auditor, you should plan for your bank branch audit based on your previous experience. Like, how is the overall audit trail? Overall, how is the cooperation of the bank branch, which gives you information? How many records are maintained manually? Like, when you ask the branch manager that, would you get this kind of a printout? They would say, no, system doesn't give it. And when they come with you for a closing circular and they ask you to sign on that, they'll say, everything is generated by the computer. So when you demand, computer doesn't give anything. And when they give you something for signatures and you ask them questions, they say that everything is done by the system. I've never understood this, So ensure that wherever there are manual records and registered maintained, still use them as an audit documentation or audit evidence. And wherever you have records, like even if the DP is computerized, drawing power, some banks still maintain a DP register on a manual basis. Make use of mobile phone. Take a photograph in a decent fashion, convert that into a PDF so nobody can modify that, and send it to a dedicated email ID of your team and ask your back office team that they should immediately download that, save it in a folder which will be naming that particular file logically, so that when you as a partner or a proprietor looks at that data, you can look at that and form your view. Because when you ask for Xerox copies, when you ask for printouts, the bankers, they love nature a lot. So they talk about, sir, एक पेड़ काटना पड़ता है एक paper के box के लिए, right? So don't ask them to cut the tree. Instead, you use this and save it in a digital format. That saves you a lot of time. Also CBS, How many of you are continuing auditors this year? Like those who have not completed 4 years term? Okay, you can answer this question. How many of you got last year the user ID and password for the branch audit? Okay, good. How many of you didn't get it? Oh, that's good. How many of you used that password at the branch? User ID and password? So I could give you the numbers. Like almost if we have 20 people who raised hand, only 10 would say that we used it. Okay. Could you generate or set up some reports for the period, or it was just to view the account statements or to view the report folder? Could you do anything beyond this, like report folder or account statement for loan accounts or deposit accounts? Beyond that, could you check anything in the software? Pardon me? Master data, that is related to borrower account, so it is part of account statement only. What else? Okay. So did you report that somewhere? It wasn't working. Very nice. Did you report it somewhere in your audit report? See, getting a user ID password is not sufficient. It should be workable and it should be able to set up the reports for the entire period which you are covering under audit. 1st April to 31st March. If you are not doing it, please write it somewhere. In LFR, there are a lot of questions on CBS or MIS. There when we can say, that we are being provided with an access. However, our user ID password doesn't work. So how you did it? Maybe you used it through the user ID and password of some officer. So our access was restricted. I'll tell you, GLPL, generally they don't give you access for the full period. I would suggest you in your requirement checklist that we'll see in the next few slides, you should add that okay, give me 1, 2, 3, 5, maybe 10 GL heads and 10 PL heads for the period April to 31st March. So they can set it up and they can give it to you so that you get it at one place, Otherwise, normally at the branch, you see a data up to maybe 3 months or 6 months. Rest all, they also will have to set it up, Also, you should check, that there is a MIS system at the branch, but that MIS usually mismatched with the live data. Because MIS is on a cutoff time, and subsequently there could be a posting of value dating. So you have a mismatch. Like say, for example, there is a MIS of, say, in non-fund based limits, which says that the branch has got non-fund limits of, say, 100 crores. And when actually you are signing the statement, it is maybe 99 crores or maybe 101 crores. So there is a possibility that you may have a gap in MIS and live data because of the value dating subsequent to 31st March. To that extent, you will have to check it. Also, the RTGS, NEFT and all is open for 31st March for tax payments. You all are aware that I can make a tax payment maybe after 31st March also with a value date of 31st March. They keep it open. Now what's the problem is, once they keep it open, they cannot restrict the inflow of that money, It may not necessarily be only for the tax payments. Like I want to transfer funds to him. And if I set it up on 1st of April, and if the back end of the bank, that 31st day is open, then it may be properly posted on 31st. So check also at the branch, that MIS data, whether it has got an impact of these RTGS and NEFT transactions which were kept open for 31st, and is there a mismatch? Report it somewhere. Also, most of the times you will get information that, we don't know this, system does this. Either you take it in your MR or make a separate list and attach it somewhere. That 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we asked for the branch to provide us. We were informed that this is not possible. And ensure that you add one line there that we are unable to comment about the same, Then they will realize that this is what is required by the auditor and we must make provision for it. And then lack of audit trail. There must be some banks which resist in providing you an email, account statement. Then how do you do the backing up of your working papers? Say, for example, I go to the branch and I tell them that, boss, I need this account statement. They say that we don't take a print. Environment, green, everything. So do they write a mail to us? And if no mail, then how are you creating a document that you tested this? All needs to be planned in advance. Because you are continuing auditors, you will have an experience with the same bank. You are going for a new branch, a new bank for the first time, obviously you will have to plan it once you reach the branch because you really don't know what kind of information you will get from them. So once you get the appointment, check the applicable act for the bank. except for SBI, the act is Banking Regulation Act. Okay. It's a common answer, but it's not a right answer. For SBI, it's SBI Act 1955. So you are appointed as a branch auditor under SBI Act for SBI. For other banks, it is Banking Companies Acquisition and Transfer of Undertakings Act 1970 or 1980, under which nationalization happened. It's a small act, but as an auditor, you must know under which act you are appointed. You must document that also in the beginning. Then once you receive an appointment letter, you can send an acceptance letter which is subject to a NOC from a previous auditor. Even today, I believe a lot of auditors feel that, RBI is appointing us, so why should we need a NOC? Answer is wrong. You have to take a NOC irrespective whether a list is provided by RBI or CNDG, whatever. Here, ICAI has given you a permission now as per the Code of Ethics that you can do it on email, you can do it on a phone, you can write it off as a minute, and then subsequently the paper can follow. Also, you can write a line in your request for NOC stating that within reasonable time, if you don't give, we'll consider that you have a no objection. Because you have got very limited time to give this to the bank. And then that's very important. Then issue an engagement letter. How many of you have a practice of issuing engagement letter otherwise also? Not only to the bank branches, but otherwise? I think all of us should raise hands saying that we will at least do it from March 25. Because that is also another important thing. CAQ has done a tremendous effort, Center for Audit Quality, and they have already issued one guidance to all of us that which can be the standard formats of engagement letter which you can modify based on your client's requirement or audit requirements. So at least take help of that. You can start with it. You can modify it over a period of time, but it's always good to have an engagement letter. Practical difficulty we face is that as a branch auditor, we really don't know whom to address it. So you can address it to the branch and say that. You can even acknowledge it as a receipt. That is good enough because audit engagement is nothing but my understanding of what is expected out of me as a statutory auditor to conduct the audit as per the appointment letter. So even an acknowledged copy from the branch is good enough for our working papers. Audit program, checklist, it depends on how much time you have. Audit program, as I said, you can begin with a program which is already available in guidance note appendices. And you may prepare a smaller checklist, maybe a finer checklist for each type of work you expected your team to do during the audit. And that can be done based on your previous experience as an auditor of the same bank in the previous year, or maybe different banks in previous years. That, okay, normally how much time I spend. Like prior to July 2021, I used to ask this question and I used to get an answer. Something like this, that how much time do you spend in a bank branch audit assignment on verification of advances and IRAC norms? I used to get answers 60%, 70%, sometimes even 80%. But especially after 2021, when RBI mandated these banks to do system-based asset classification. In March 22 or March 23 and March 24, 3 full years have gone by. Now our time for verification of advances may be little more, but for SBAC, thanks to SBAC, our NPA verification time has been substantially reduced. I'm not saying that it has gone to zero, because there are still issues. And we keep on discussing those issues on a regular basis during April. Even today, the input data is not correct. Maybe wrong information is fed. Maybe renewals, short renewals are being done, but recorded as regular renewals, so data are being tweaked. So even today, some of the branches, you will find that the quality of data is not that good enough, and that makes you identify even today some of the accounts as NPAs, irrespective of system-driven NPAs. So that keeps on happening, So make smaller checklists for all these times, all these types of works, and you can suggest your team based on your previous year's experience that these would be additional areas you will have to do. Also, attend these trainings and workshops and seminars is good enough. But that's not a final aim, What you should do is, you should go back to office and plan the team there itself tomorrow, that this would be the team, and then you should interact with them and pass on whatever you have learned to them. And that would be as per the requirement of SQC1 also, the training requirements and the quality assurance. And it will help you actually in practical things, that your team would be aware that these are the new things you have to do, these are the things you have to do in a different way this time, and these are my team members and these are my roles and responsibilities for this particular assignment. Since I have already discussed with you on audit program as suggested in appendices of bank audit, guidance note 2025, some of the points which they should not miss is, thrust areas, physical verification of cash, sensitive accounts, frauds, contingent liabilities not acknowledged as debts, and most important factor is certificates, But certificates are such that, they're the most casually taken area by the branches, and they don't believe that auditor has to do some testing and then issue a certificate. They believe that the way my system I am relying on, auditor should also rely on that system, and they should just put their round stamp and give it back to us. But I can tell you that if you analyze those certificates, to be very honest, around 20 certificates we should get for the requirement as per the RBI circular. But there are some additional 20, 30 certificates which a statutory branch auditor gives, which are again a backup or a follow-up certificate. If you ask me a priority certificate, there would be only one certificate. But for that priority, we'll have maybe 10 certificates down the line. It would be for education loan, it would be for SHG loans, it would be for so many loans. Or maybe, have we covered any agriculture advances in this conference yesterday or today? No. Do you all get a chance to do audit of branches which are predominantly agriculture-based branches? Yes, you get it. This time there would be a change, I feel so, because last year, RBI proposed, and even ministry proposed, a Kisan portal. And from that Kisan portal, they have started uprising the claims on subvention by the banks. So, till March 24, the banks have continued their own structure of calculation of, subvention. But the actual claim filed is based on Kisan portal. And I was told that there are mismatches. So there may be a probability, I'm not certain, but because of the requirements or additional requirements or maybe a changed scenario for approval of claims by the ministry, there may be probably a change. Each bank would incorporate in their closing circular, and now you will have to issue a certificate as required by the Kisan portal. So this time you can plan. These are certain changes which have come, so I thought I'll just share with you. And also ensure that you have to identify in all those 20, 30 certificates, how many certificates you are giving as a statutory auditor based on the reasonable assurance, how many certificates you are going as a statutory auditor based on absolute assurance, and how many certificates you are giving as a statutory auditor based on limited assurance. Say, for example, if you are certifying closing balance of cash, technically it should be an absolute circular, yes, today was a cash balance, but provided you are there on 31st March. If you are not there on 31st March and you have not verified cash of 31st March, probably you will not give an absolute assurance that this was a cash, I did not verify it. So what you will do is, you will go there on 3rd or 4th of April. On that 3rd and 4th of April, what you will do is, you will see receipt and payments from 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, whatever is the operating day. 1st is normally not. And then probably you will verify cash on 4th. And then satisfy that the system works. There is a dual control and so many things. And then certify that the cash balance on 4th of April, when we verified it at the end of the day or maybe at the beginning of the day, is tallying. So then your certificate of cash as on 31st March and the CRR SLR would be only a reasonable assurance that during the audit on a test check basis you have relied on closing balance as issued by the CBS system, you are certifying it. Maybe a limited extent, much lower assurance in case of, probably the agriculture subvention. Like you have got 800 accounts, Out of 800 accounts, even if you check 20% as a normal, reasonable assurance, it comes to 160 accounts you have to check. Can you really check 160 accounts in 4 days? Basic things you have to check is the sanction letter, then the sanction date, disbursement date, rate of interest, then regular repayment. So you have to check the account statement also. Then ensure that other compliance requirements, that the 7/12 extract is in the name of the borrower. The overall land ceiling, what prescribed in the circular is being matching, that less than so many acres. And then you can say that I'm giving a reasonable assurance. But if it is not happening and you are relying on the data generated by the system and you are drawing a further limited sample, then you can issue a limited assurance to that certificate, which would be in the nature of like something what you do it in a limited review report. Nothing has come to our knowledge that causes us to believe that this interest subvention is wrong. And then you can document that out of, 800, I could check only 80 accounts or 50 accounts, and rest all have relied on the system where input data has been verified by the branch, checked by the branch, and on a monthly basis, randomly, their internal team, their concurrent auditors, their internal auditors have verified this data. It's not that you can just rely on the system data. You'll have to prepare a good document which will supplement your limited assurance view. So not to miss out on all those important factors, I would request that apart from the audit program which is given, you should add all the certificates also as a part of audit program. On day 1, you should assign that responsibility to individuals part of your team and ensure that give them enough guidance that how and at what extent the checking of those certificates is required to be done by your team and what would be a probable outcome of that should be brought out. Also ensure that, while reporting, you can use maybe a cover page as issued by the guidance note on issuing special purpose reports and certificates, that one-page report on all these certificates saying that all these certificates are done throughout the statutory audit. So primarily they demonstrate a reasonable assurance, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 certificates, they have been verified based on very limited information, so they demonstrate a limited assurance. And that the format is already prescribed, and I think you will get it as part of the appendices on guidance note on 2025, also that one-page format for the certificates. So all that you can bring in along with what is the standard program. Because always, standards are set considering that, a general perspective about what are the basic things to be covered. So based on your experience, based on your team size, based on the branch size and the complexities of business involved in that branch, you have to modify that audit program so that it will suit to the requirements of your team. So once you do this planning, I would request you to also link it with the reporting requirements, In the introduction, I suggested that, only what to do is not sufficient. What to do and what is the purpose of doing it? How are you going to report it? That also needs to be linked. So, maybe you can take a benefit of this technical guide on long form audit report. Also a technical guide on IFCO FR. Not changed because LFR was introduced in 2020. I think 5th September 2020 is a circular. And the guidance note is quite clear. And I think Lokesh ji will be also taking through a lot of clues from that. I just share with you some of my brief ideas about how you should have an audit approach if you are doing an LFAR linkage. Like first of all, reading. I've seen a lot of answers as not applicable. Like there's one question. In previous LFAR prior to 2020, it was like, has the branch followed IRAC norms? Now, we have got around 20 more questions, but this question is also there. Ideally, this question should have been deleted in 2020 because they have elaborated further those IRAC requirements under some 20 odd questions. But this question also is there. I remember last year, I saw one LFAR which says not applicable. Now, it's absolutely applicable. See, the contention of the auditor was, in my branch, there is no single NPA account. So I have written not applicable. And this happens only when my team which is preparing LFAR has not been given a briefing by the partner or the proprietor. Because IRAC norms are applicable across all branches. There may be a case that I don't have a branch where, I don't have an NPA account in my branch where I'm auditing. So I would say that we have verified it and found that there was no NPA account, but the IRAC norms are there in place and they are being followed. So this reading of a question is very important, Like, if we disseminate all that LFAR, I would give you a simple thing that LFAR itself is a wonderful checklist to start the work, Even if you go by one point in LFAR, that itself will make your wonderful audit program. And if your team follows it thoroughly, you can do an audit in a better fashion. Separate checklist for each point. Like there are some questions, like there is a question on MIS, there is a question on data, there is a question on interest calculation. Make smaller checklists, and that will help you to supplement your team with some additional work, Ensure that you write descriptive answers, like including facts, figures, examples. So prior to 31st March, what you can do is, you can make a LFAR in Excel and try to give them an idea that what is to be checked for this point, how this point to be checked, what should be a probable report, Like if you find negative observations, the negative report would write. Like say, for example, insurance. Under insurance, we discussed it. So what we should do is, out of 20 accounts selected for testing, we observe that in following 8 cases, the account is under insurance. And then write account number, borrower name, stock value, insurance value, matter over. But if you are not aware, and your team is not aware, then you remember that at the end, you'll have to do a lot of exercise, You have to correlate between what was the observation and at what particular question in the LFAR you'll have to bring it. So it's always good to bring it at the time of planning level in the audit program. Please request with folded hands. Avoid 3 interesting words: yes, no, and not applicable. That's the simplest way you can do a LFAR. But they're the most ineffective way of reporting what work you have done. My personal experience is that those auditors who believe in writing yes, no, and not applicable, all the hard work done by them or their team members in that 8-10 days situation, pressure cooker situation, is wasted, So at the time of planning, tell your team members very categorically that yes, no, not applicable cannot be the answers. You can start answer saying that yes, and then say that I did it on a test check and I found these observations or these aberrations, whatever. Also ensure that, any adjustment which is to be done, it is to be done through MOC only. Even today, the branch managers ask the branch auditors that, sir, you write in LFAR, but don't give an MOC. And all of us would have got this request from some or the other branch manager in our bank audit experience. It's not possible. If you want to do any adjustment in any account head or any borrower's asset classification, you cannot push it in LFAR. Earlier, what used to happen was, LFAR, the central auditors do compilation of LFAR before 30th of June. That's the last date. Or within 1 month, of the signing of the financial statements. So that is the time limit. So they used to do it at the end. So it used to get passed smoothly, you know. But even the central auditors have now realized that some of the branch managers put this request and some of the auditors accept it. So MOC is passed through LFAR. So most of the central auditors have already configured that at the time of consolidation, they check the LFAR also. And they pick up the transactions which are reported there and get the MOC passed. Like I remember when I was a central auditor, I did it in a couple of occasions, and the branch manager was surprised that how the MOC is passed without my knowledge. I said, I have a relationship with the branch auditor, not the branch manager. SA 600, SA 299. So I immediately called up the branch auditor saying that you have pushed this in LFAR, whereas an MOC is required. So get a MOC signed and send it to me. So the auditor went there, got a signature of the branch manager and sent it to us. Because the central auditor cannot pass a MOC for what work you have done, you know. So even if you have a slightest of the chance of having this query from a branch that can you push it, I would request that even if you believe that you can push it, get a confirmation from your central auditor that this is an observation. I believe an MOC is passed. The auditor, the branch manager is not allowing us to do it. Kindly advise. And I can tell you, there is a limitation on central auditors also to drop the MOCs. Most of the times, SBS believe that if we give a MOC, the manager tells them that, oh, I will get it dropped. It's not easy. My personal experience I can share with you, unless it's a gross mistake, or there is an additional information which earlier it was not known to the branch auditor, has come or surfaced. Only in these two occasions, the central auditor may decide to drop that observation. That too, nowadays, most of them speak to the branch auditors, take their view and then take a call. So it's not at all easy to drop an observation. So ensure that any adjustment to the accounted, any adjustment to the asset classification has to go through MOC. At the most, what you can do is you can discuss and ask them to write a dissent. That otherwise also you should do it for all the report observations. Whatever are your observations you are going to give as a draft report, share it with them. Get their signature. I normally tell my team to carry a 200-page notebook, you know. On the left-hand side, my team writes all the queries. Then, whenever I visit the branch or some partner visits the branch, they refine that query. And at the end of the day, we give it to the branch manager saying that tomorrow morning 11, you have to have an answer on the right-hand side. And if any supporting paper, supporting document, you should give. And that one 200-page notebook, whatever 10, 12, 15 pages your team will fill, that becomes a wonderful document or evidence that the work was actually performed. And obviously, out of those documents, those observations which will go to LFAR, those observations which will require further work, they will be updated and added into your checklist which you are going to prepare in a soft copy. So take that, wherever possible, take the representations. It could be on a case-to-case basis or an overall management representation letter. By and large, most of the banks in their closing circular itself have prescribed one standard set of MR. I hope all of you who are continuing auditors get such standard format of MR from the bank. If not, if you are not getting it, or is there a resistance from the branch management, I would request you to write to the central auditor straight away saying that I'm not getting a MRL. Because the way the branch auditor will get an MRL from the branch manager, same way as the central auditor will be getting MRL from the zonal office or a regional office or a head office. And I'm sure none of the central auditors does it without taking a MRL. So if any bank which is prescribing that I'm not going to give you a MRL, please write to their statutory auditor. There are two methods in which you can report. One, in LFAR, there is one question that do you want to give any point to the central auditor? So there you can very well write. Also, you have a communication of SA 600 or SA 299, whereas they write to you that these are expectations. You have to submit that we followed this. In that you can add one more point, saying that this was not done. So the reader would come to know that there is a deficiency and they'll try to work on it. Again, another point, all this said and done, a lot of auditors feel that who reads my report? I did so many things, I wrote so many things, what happened further? Undoubtedly, nobody pays you for knowing what happens it further. Once your audit is done, you should forget there and there itself. But I can tell you, there are two important readers who value your report to the fullest. One is the branch manager, because next 15 days or 30 days, that branch manager will have to write a compliance of that report. And before that compliance happens, immediate reader is statutory auditor, the central auditor. Because once you sign the statements, within next 5 days, that central auditor team will have to sign the zone or the circle. And at that time, they'll have to read your reports. Without that, they cannot go ahead. And they will again read your all the reports when they are actually compiling the long form audit report, to take the observations and put it as a common observation for bank as a whole. So mind it, your report is well read by at least 2 individuals, and if you have a very valid point in it, it can go and escalate up to audit committee of the bank also. Because all this summary of observations of statutory audit are reported to audit committee, and they deliberate on it, and accordingly they issue a guidance for the further work. So there are enough readers, so feel free to write whatever best you can. But for that, you'll have to tell your team that you should plan the work and execute the work. And remember this, you can please some of the people some of the time, but you can't please all the people all the time. So don't accept what the request come. Continue to do what you can do the best. This I'm going to skip with only one mention. Let's just look at the words which are being used in the cover of this 5th September circular. It is transaction testing, providing input to the central statutory auditors. The threshold fixed for different purposes of the comments in LFR will decide that above threshold. Transaction detailing needs to be seen. Verification of data integrity, data-related control system and processes. See, prior to 2020, whenever we used to talk about LFAR, we used to always say that it's a management report, So why I want you to link it with your audit program is that, look at these words. These words are prescribed from standards on auditing. And standards on auditing tells you to do this, like your maturity, your sampling, your test checking, transaction checking. Transaction testing, what is the word synonymous to that, which comes to your mind? One word, which is very synonymous to auditing, Excellent. Who said that? Good. I was expecting that somebody who is senior to me only would say this. Because nowadays people have forgotten vouching, The pin drop silence tells me whether my statement was right or wrong, Vouching, verification, structured walkthroughs, inquiries, observation. These were our fantastic skills to do audit, Am I right, sir? Have to plan it. So ensure that LFAR circular of RBI specifies it. What else you want? So ensure that in your audit program, you give them a clear idea. And that's the reason I think CAQ has already come out with a Excel-based checklist for an audit program on a bank audit. And it was recently revised also. I think you all must have received it on a SMS or an email. Make use of it. Many a times, auditors don't document properly what is materiality and what is sampling. Materiality you have to identify based on some parameters. Like say for advances, there would be a different materiality. For deposit side, there would be a different materiality. For profit and loss items, there would be a different materiality. Sometimes we have a separate materiality which is recommended by the statutory central auditors to the statutory branch auditors. One materiality is already set up here, We'll discuss that, maybe. excess of 10% of outstanding or 10 crores. So if you have a branch where there is an advance account of 10 crores and above, there's no choice but to do it. And 10 crores or 10% of the total advances, whichever is lesser. So if you have a larger branch, probably 10 crore is a benchmark. But at the same time, imagine you have a branch, say 30,000 crore, which is normally done by a big auditor, central auditor, which has got only 20 accounts. And all are having exposure of 200, 500, 600 crores. So do you expect them to check 100%? Answer is no. And that's where you can supersede the materiality which is recommended and then document it. That, okay, for 35,000 crore advances, we have taken a benchmark of 10%. Then how much it will be? 3,500 crore. Now, if 3,500 crore above, you select 10 accounts, then it becomes 35,000. So again, 100% is not expected. So you can further increase it. So this adjustment you'll have to do based on the branch size also you do. Like say if you're doing a 300 crore branch, then 10% or 10 crores. So it will be 10 crores. So all accounts above 10 crore is your first checklist. So testing has to be done. But what is materiality? You may increase it based on your previous year's experience with the same bank, or maybe your experience of dealing with such branches in other banks, and then you can do it. And that Excel-based checklist which they have provided is excellent to start with, and you can further elaborate it as and when you develop it. Also, wherever you can say you're writing something very negative. Say, for example, there was a branch where 100 crores advances, branch reported 10 crores of NPAs, you reported 50 crores of NPAs. So could you really say that there are controls, there are system-based attest classification being done, IRAC norms being followed? Answer is no. So branch was under profit when they gave you the pre-audited statements. And because of all these adjustments which you recommend under MOCs, now it's a branch under loss. I have come across cases where, such large chunk of advances being marked as NPAs, a large amount of expenditure has been, income has been reversed, and because of which a profit-making branch going into a loss-making branch, but the auditor issuing a SA 700 report. So if you go through that checklist of CAQ, you will find that what kind of report or what kind of assurance you are doing, how you should draft a report, whether that should be a qualified report or it should be a regular report. In my opinion, at a branch level, you can very well have a qualified report in such cases because you are doing it on a test check basis. Whatever you tested, you found some material misstatements and then you have rectified it. But there could be more. Also, during the planning stage, give this example to your team, that these are the things where you can give an MOC. Income, expenditure, asset liabilities, gross NPA, provision for NPAs, classification of advances, risk-weighted assets, and other items. And this is prescribed in our guidance note in the standard format of audit report also. I think the 10 number point is all exclusions which are done at head office, and 11 number point in our audit report is this particular format. So tell the team exactly that, what is this increase and decrease. Because normally we are experts of debit and credit, And then if you are reducing the interest, then it has to be decrease in interest. That means reversal of interest in case if you identify something as an NPA. So you should tell your team that, okay, if there is an adjustment, how you should plot it on this particular sheet, and then accordingly prepare the entire backup sheet. Also give details of MOCs, elaborative explanation in your probably the long form audit report at an appropriate place. As we discussed, certificates. We give a lot of certificates. I have not listed everything here, but what I'm proposing is that, you should ensure that all these certificates are being plotted in your audit program from day one. And you should assign a particular team member with a clear, specific instruction that what is the purpose of this certificate, what are the things to be checked, how the accounts are to be tested, and what documents and papers to be collected, and how to draw conclusion that whether you can give this certificate or not. And there are so many certificates, you know. Look at this. We discussed about, that limited assurance and reasonable assurance. Like, as a statutory auditor, you do a lot of certification. So obviously it will fall in that first category of reasonable assurance, So it is a higher compared to limited, but it is with the audit, So with the test check and not an absolute assurance. So wider in scope, verify relevant documentation, inquiries, testing internal controls to assess compliance, and analytical procedures. So same thing what you do during the audit, same thing you apply for those checklists. So these 4 items needs to be plotted against each certificate, that what is the population you want to test, sampling, what is motility, and what documentation you have to take, what are the controls you checked, and conclusion. And then you may probably write in a format, like in our opinion, the entity has complied or whatever. So there will be an opinion which would say that you're complying with it. Limited assurance, it is lower than a reasonable, narrower than a scope, like review of financial statements or other relevant documents, inquiries, analytical procedures. And conclusion would be something like a negative assurance, that based on the procedures performed and evidence obtained, nothing has come to our attention that causes us to believe that the bank branch has not complied in all material aspects with respect to, and then you may write interest subvention or whatever. And this format is already prescribed under Guidance Note on Issuing Special Purpose Reports and Certificates 2016 revised edition. So it's established almost for 8-10 years now, and people are using it. Even Guidance Note 2024, 23 also it had. Now 2025 also would have same format which you can use for the branch audits. If you remember, I said in the beginning that technical standards and professional standards. So to some extent, standards on auditing compliance also needs to be done. And considering the peer review requirement, I think more prominently we'll have to plot that. So all these important standards, I thought I'll just list it down, because some of us who have passed this exam recently, they might be aware of some of these standards, but not all the standards, because we all follow these standards except SA 230. So that's the request. Look at these compliances, So maybe agreeing with the terms of audit engagement, so issuing an engagement letter. So it's automatically, once you issue it, you're complying with the standard, Like quality control for audit of financial statement, SA 220, it's at par with SQC 1. So once you get a declaration, once you start preparing for training, once you start documenting what you have done, that's part of SQC 1 compliance. I thought I'll just give you the list of all those, so that when you go back and have a look at this, at least something refreshes your mind. Look at this SA 600, In last 3 years, at least central auditors have been regularly communicating with the branch auditors, and there has been a certificate which has been given. How many of you have read that certificate? Signed everybody, obviously, because if you don't sign that, it will not be considered as an audited branch. But how many of you have read this, or you remember what was there in that? Anybody remembers the contents? That whatever certificate you have issued under SA 600, addressed to the statutory central auditors? Anybody? The first and foremost important thing which it specifies is that I, as an auditor, have complied with technical and professional and ethical standards while conducting this audit assignment. Because if you have done that, then only I'm going to rely on work done by you. That's what is the communication which comes from SCA to SBA. So obviously, SBA gives a communication back to them saying that we have followed all the technical, professional, and ethical standards as applicable to this assignment have been complied with by me or my team. And this includes what we have been discussing since morning. So SS 600 effectively is being used for last 2-3 years in SBA and SCA communication extensively, A simple tip for documentation. Prepare documentation that provides sufficient and appropriate record of basis of auditor's report and evidence that audit was planned and performed in accordance with SA. Now, this is something which I have picked up from an ICAI publication only. Because this one slide summarizes everything of SA 230. Like, what is documentation? Nothing but the simplest of the definition is on this one slide. Sufficient and appropriate record. So having too many papers is also a challenge, Like sampling. You have got, a list of all loan book, like 200 accounts, and you have not plotted how much you have tested. Then the reader would assume that all 200 you have tested, or nothing you have tested on either side. So having an appropriate document is very important, Having too many documents is also a challenge. So collect only sufficient documents which proves a point that your audit was planned and performed. And this linkage of planning and performance is what is required or expected in such assignments, one-time assignments, is from audit plan till audit report, So if your working papers would be marked with, at least some reference of long-form audit report probably, or some reference of audit program, then that would be meaningful for any reader who comes and checks up as a peer reviewer, So this one slide of SA 230, you and your team members should be aware while collecting the information, tagging it properly with audit program or audit report, and then subsequently arranging the file once you are concluded with the report. No doubt, for other audit checklist and a lot of material is already available on ICAI website. You can take a soft copy of Excel or Word audit programs, audit checklist from CAQ and all. So much material is available, Just a brief that what is expected from a peer reviewer's checking, Like inspection consists of examination of documentation and other records maintained by the practice unit. Practice unit should have written guidelines for maintaining working papers. Working papers should contain all audit evidence and all are cross-referenced. Like I was suggesting you that you can either mark a reference with the audit program or with an audit report. So there is a logical referencing. So a reader can easily make out that this particular paper pertains to a particular activity which was planned as an audit program, and the effective reporting has happened based on the observation which is lying in this particular paper. That cross-referencing of that working paper between starting point and ending point is that performance of audit, execution of audit, and reporting. That is something which they check a lot. Updation of audit working papers, including permanent records. So obviously, when you are having a 3 or 4 years audit, then my audit planning should start when I end this particular year's audit. So those who still have some time left, like say, for example, last year was your first year of audit in a particular bank, then on a normal scenario, we would expect that for next 3 more years, you will be continued as a branch auditor. So your audit plan should start when you end this year's audit, Like when the memory is fresh, when the team is aware that what were the difficulties, you should list down 1 or 2 papers, 1 or 2 pages for the planning for the next year. That which were the common areas where we found difficulties, which were the most difficult areas where we found that we have to spend a lot of time, which was the area which we could do smoothly, so that next year we can further plan it in a more smoother way. All that can be listed only on 1 page or 2 pages, so that next year, because bank audit is an annual ritual, we close the file on 15th of April and we open it only on 15th of March next year. So till that time, we don't even look at that file. So make a 2-page note that these were the problems, these were the good things which we did, and this would be more useful for my next year. I think that brings to my basic discussion on audit planning today. If time permits, we'll take questions. Otherwise, thank you to you all for listening to me. Thank you once again to Ahmedabad branch for giving me this opportunity. Best wishes for the audit. Thank you.
Hello. Thank you so much, sir. Your insightful in this topic of audit planning is very helpful to all the members of who get the chance to done the statutory bank audit. Now I like to call Niket Rasania to give a thanks speech.
A very good morning to all, and before I forget, happy Women's Day to every women participants here. And first of all, on behalf of Ahmedabad branch, I would like to express my gratitude to Niranjan ji for such a wonderful session and for sparing his time for us. And as Niranjan sir has delivered a very wonderful session, sharing his valuable insights on the topic audit planning. And I hope that it will be very valuable and helpful for our participants. And at the end, last but not the least, I would like to express my gratitude to our participants for making this session possible. Thank you everyone. And with your permission, we shall move forward to the next session, which shall be handled by Lokesh sir. Thank you so much.